Okay, my name is María Fernanda López, and this is my presentation for exercise 13. First of all, I'm going to start with the part of the Berlin Wall, which was a barrier that divided Berlin from 1961 to 1989, and it was constructed by the German Democratic Republic, which was also known as the GDR or East Germany. And this wall was constructed overnight, and it started on August 13, 1961. And this was because during the early years of the Cold War, West Berlin was a geographical loophole that was used by thousands of East Germans to go to the democratic West. So, in order to stop this, the Communist East made the German authorities build a wall encircling West Berlin. So the wall stretched over 100 miles, and it cut West Berlin from the rest of East Germany, so it was isolated. And also, sometimes the German democratic authorities referred to this wall as an anti-fascist protection rampart, or it was also known as a wall of shame. And mainly this wall served to prevent the massive immigration that marked East Germany and the Communist Eastern Bloc during the post-World War II period. And then to continue, we can say that on November 9th of the year 1989, the East German government announced that all the GDR citizens could visit West Germany and West Berlin. So the wall stood for almost 30 years, and the demolition officially started on June 13 of the year 1990, and it was fully completed in 1992. So it reunited the German Democratic Republic with the Federal Republic of Germany, and it is officially celebrated on October 3rd, which this day is referred as the German Unity Day. And then we move on to the part of the Cold War, which was a period that lasted from 1947 to 1991. And during this period, there was a significant political tension between the US and the USSR, which was Russia during that time. And during this time, a lot of things happened, and we have the signing of the Warsaw Pact on May 14 of 1955. Then the construction of this Berlin Wall I previously talked about, which started on August 13, 1961, and then its fall in November 9, 1989, which was 30 years later. And other things like the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was a very important event during of this period. Then we have the leaders and the mistakes they committed. First, we have Leonid Brezhnev, and when he started to rule Russia, all the progress that this country had made was destroyed immediately. Here we have a period of economic decline in the USSR, which was between 1964 and 1982, and it was full of political changes, reforms, and economical strategies. When this happened, the lowest GDP, which is growth per capita, was registered in this country. And also the developments were mainly based on the military sectors, this being mainly the nuclear and aerospace areas, which were unsuccessful and full of shackles. And in politics, the type of power changed, and it became more close with the intention of not disturbing the public order. And a very important thing is that the right of self-expression disappeared completely. And also, Brezhnev decided to set up missiles in Cuba, beginning the invasion of Afghanistan, and this affected directly the economy of the USSR and imposed the War of Vietnam, which costed a lot of lives and supplies that were not available for Russia during this time. Then we have Yuri Andropov, and he ruled for about 15 months. And he began by educating and disciplining the whole country, and he established control on the citizens' daily life, raising a little bit the industrial production with a 6% on the first 6 months. And he proposed a decentralization and a new economic system, which involved bringing back the agricultural sector. This is because he believed that this was the way the country could grow again. And talking about politics, he decided to up by a new structure of young politicians with new ideas to rescue the system. But one clear mistake he made was to react really violently in several incidents where it wasn't really necessary to react this way. Finally, we have Konstantin Chernenko, and he was an old man that took the power when he was 72 years old, and his reforms and strategies were established, but they were not really followed. And he was an antique symbol of the USSR regime, where all the old politicians held the power. And his government lasted only for 1 year, and he died because of his health conditions. And with him, a new era started where the regime of Mikhail Gorbachev began. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about the politics of this guy, Mikhail Gorbachev. And since 1985, with his promotion as the General Secretary of the Communist Party and Chairman of the Supreme Soviet, the direction of Russia started to change. And his modern policies involve extensive reforms, like the Perestroika, which was meant for liberation and modernization of the Soviet economy, and also the Glasnost, which brought a breakthrough in civic freedoms and transparency of information. So his main objective was to try and rescue socialism in order to apply it as a way of organization of the Soviet society. And then talking about the domino effect that took place in Poland, we can say that the Solidarity movement, nominated by Mazowiecki as the new prime minister, put an end to more than 40 years of communist government. So the Soviet Union decided not to intervene, and later on it began the fall of the communist bloc. So these events in Poland were quickly followed by similar movements in places like Hungary and Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, and Eastern Germany, and it resulted in an irreversible domino effect against communism. And after that, I have the social consequences of the fall of the socialist bloc. And this information I obtained from an oral interview I made to a German citizen who is my teacher, whose name is Martin Stender, and he has been living in Mexico for 2 years, and he's an English, German, and anatomy teacher in my campus. So he told me that hundreds of Germans as a society and as individuals were able to reunite with their families after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it ended, and also this ended the existence of a bipolar country. And also that it has to be noticed that there had been a lot of cultural clashes between the two generations that were raised during the existence of the Berlin Wall. So with the birth of each new generation, the differences became smaller and smaller, and the two societies started to get more similar as the years passed. And also at first people were very happy and ecstatic about being reunited with their loved ones, mostly because there had been like 30 years without seeing them. But about 2 or 3 years later, they realized the huge cultural clash that it meant to have been separated and been governed by different regiments for almost 3 decades. So this meant that they were political, social, and educational very different. So this brought conflicts. And finally, we have the conclusion of the work. What failed the economic system or the decisions taken by the socialist leaders? Well, first of all, it can be stated that the time and the unnecessary wars that costed a lot of time and money were one of the main causes that led to the end of the great power that was the USSR. And also, their leaders had to adapt to the war situations they were involved in, so they had to produce armament, which distracted them from more important aspects for the evolution and the progress of their nations. So they kind of left that behind and focused more on war. And in my personal opinion, I believe that the communist regime, as the way it is established, is bound to fail eventually, mainly because not every single individual in the same society has the same capacity to manage their goods and possessions as the rest can. So even though this system avoids social classes, there would still be injustice. And also communism is able to work as long as the production of other countries is low. But when the rest of the world starts to adopt or choose another system, like capitalism, it is obvious that the communism, as the minority, is not able to get something that is in decline. So they start to decline. And capitalist countries step up. And that would be it for my work. Thank you very much for the attention. And I'm sorry about my voice because I'm sick.